You are good to go, Senator.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Shannon Chandley from Senate District 11, and today we will be holding a regular meeting of the Committee to Study Unprotected Drinking Water Sources. Now, before we get started, I'll read through a checklist to ensure that the meeting that we are holding is in compliance with the state's right to know law. As chair of the Committee to Study Unprotected Drinking Water Sources, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04 and its extensions, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. In accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possible by video and other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the committee and selected legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously in this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously watch or listen to the meeting on Zoom or YouTube and via phone by following the directions and the links provided on the General Court website. Also, we have provided public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting in the Senate and House calendars. And we are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, please email remote@leg.state.nh.us or call 603-271-3043. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, it will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Finally, let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states his or her presence, please also state where you are and if anyone else is in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. I will call the roll. First, my name, as I said, is Shannon Chandley. I am at home in Amherst, and I am currently alone in the room, although I have other family members in my house. Next, I'll call Representative Renzullo.
I'm Andy Renzullo. I am at my home, and I am alone at my desk.
Thank you. Representative Reed.
Reed Panicetti. I'm in Situate, Massachusetts. I'm not alone. I'm alone in the room. My mother-in-law and wife are in the living room.
And forgive me, Representative Panicetti, I called you Reed.
I know you did.
It's
fine.
I apologize for the informality. And Representative Thomas.
Yes, I'm Wendy Thomas. I'm reporting from Merrimack. I'm in a trailer by myself.
Thank you very much. And I will note that Representative Bushway has alerted us that she wouldn't be able to attend this meeting. So we will proceed from here. Thank you to everyone who is viewing this meeting. We are a draft recommendation, a draft report was posted online this morning and sent to the representatives. It is just a draft, and it is a chance for us today. We're going to be looking at it, discussing it among our members, and I certainly would welcome comments from the public if anyone feels that there is a comment he or she would like to make at this point. One of the points we have to address right from the get-go is because committee meetings were interrupted due to COVID-19, we were not able to schedule meetings as we, of course, would have liked to do. So I do believe that our first recommendation should be that this committee continue. Now that we are more in the swing of meeting electronically and holding these meetings, and the general court is able to host them, I think it makes good sense that we continue this important work. However, that would take the form of legislation to continue this subcommittee, this legislative committee. As to the rest of the recommendations, they're fairly clear. They are derived from a lot of the conversations we had in our last meetings and from the testimony that we heard from folks who spoke to us over the course of our scheduled meetings. We did hear from a lot of people and we took in a lot of information. So at this point, I would like to open it up to committee members to make comments on the draft report and the draft recommendations. So who would like to go first? Representative Renzullo.
I have a couple of things. First of all, I'll just jump right to the findings because all of the information and the meeting summaries are really expanded in the meeting minutes, which are also part of the public record. But the findings are what's really new. And first of all, just going through them in the third third bullet point, and while the committee studies were incomplete, there were several findings, and you're going down. It says leaking underground storage tanks account for nearly 46% of the state's groundwater. What? Based on 2008 NHDS groundwater hazard inventory. Does that mean? I think there's a word missing.
Yes, you're right.
Between
Yep.
groundwater and base.
Right. Hey, could I interrupt, Senator Shannon? Can Griffin or somebody put that up on the screen?
I was thinking, can we go through it page
The
by page?
report,
Do you want
put
me
the
to do it?
report up on the screen so we can identify what number he's talking about.
If someone can share it on, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me also, before we go forward, I do want to make clear that we will look at this today. I would love for us to settle all areas of concern today, but we will meet one more time because I would like, if Representative Bushway has comments to be made and for us to act upon, I would like us to be able to do that. I would like us to hear from her, and we could do that we need to do that in a public forum. So that this will be, I think we should have as much discussion today as we can. And then we will have one more meeting where we will talk about, we'll make our decision. I would like for us to be in agreement. It would be best if we are all able to agree on this, on the recommendations. It is this, it would be a stronger message, but I certainly recognize that there may be things we do not agree on. So having said that, we can move forward and let's go. Okay. So here is the first page and of the report. Are there any comments on this page?
I don't have any questions on this page.
No,
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, to the next one, please. And these are essentially the short, condensed minutes, essentially. And as Representative Renzullo said, the minutes are available.
Right.
On the website.
Mhm.
And we get to findings. So Representative Renzullo.
Yeah. Right, where I started from was on the where it said, the findings, and you go down to the third bullet.
Yeah.
I think there's a word missing between groundwater and based. the underground storage tanks account for nearly 46% of the state's groundwater. No, I don't think that's true.
I think the word missing is contamination.
Contamination.
All right, that's kind of
Thank you
changes the
for
meaning.
recognizing that.
Okay. The other comment or the other, in the next, well, it's the next bullet, which is actually a, let's see. Yeah, the next bullet on salt concentration in New Hampshire is increasing. I just my only question around that, there was this effort for certifying salt users, salt
Mhm.
people putting salt down, and they're supposed to have done was supposed to be a major improvement to be able to lower the amount of salt without affecting its effectiveness. Why isn't that showing up? Is that not showing up on the data, or?
Can I interject a little bit on that?
Yeah.
So I also caught that too, Andy, and I was going to go down into the recommendations when we recommend putting that Green Snow Pro certification in, and actually reference the DES website that is talked about. Up in, you can mention it up in the findings, but in the recommendations, we should recommend that more cities and towns adopt that program.
Well, back, I was on the committee, the resources committee when that was brought forth, and the issue that, I guess it was aimed primarily at Rockingham County, and there was all these the proposal was supposed to have a major effect on groundwater contamination from salt, and I don't know, is there any? I'd like to know if that program was effective and needs to go statewide, or not. I mean, there was a big discussion about why make it statewide. Is there? So there was it's a very contentious issue, and one of the issues that was difficult around that is the discussion was never passed on to the judiciary committee, because it affected it gave immunity to people who put salt down and who were certified, immunity from lawsuits, from suits. So there's a lot more on that, below the surface, as far as it isn't something that is that you want to have to happen without some more discussion, especially on a statewide basis.
So let me ask you, Representative, are you suggesting that based on that information that we have in our findings and what we know of the certification process, that part of our recommendations include following up on whether or not we've seen a difference, or there's been, I'd have to word it, but basically figuring out whether or not there's evidence that the
program works?
that the program is improving the situation, I guess.
Yeah.
I get the right language. Okay.
Yeah, I think that, yes, that's all I'm looking for.
Okay.
Again, Senator Shanley, we're here to make recommendations to the speaker and the governor and all that. So it's whether anything can come of that, but it's just recommendations. So are we supposed to really be concerned about other issues?
Well, so what my suggestion, these recommendations, ordinarily, I think that if we had, I don't think in any case we are making, with the exception that legislation be put in place to continue the work of this committee, I wouldn't suggest any specific legislation. I would say among the work, part of the work the committee does is follow up on that, because that's something that makes a lot of sense to follow up. You know, we're doing work, and I'm sure DES is doing that kind of follow up as well. So what we would be doing as a committee is asking for that information from them or from other concerned folks.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Representative Renzullo?
Not at the moment.
Okay. So Representative Panicetti.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to go back to what Andy said about groundwater storage contamination. We recognize that that's an issue, but we don't have anything under the recommendations about what to do about the 46% that's caused from underground storage tanks. So I think we need to make a recommendation in there that we need to kind of look at underground storage facilities from why are they leaking, how are they leaking, how old they are, those kind of issues that need to be addressed to be able to kind of take that number of 46% down to something less than 46%, you know, down to zero. But we have no recommendations in there to do that.
All right. I think that makes sense as well, to include that in the recommendations as to what an issue that the committee, the extended committee should pursue.
Wendy, you got to follow up on that? You look like you had a question.
No, I'm just going through my my recommendations, and I have the first 5 that's on this list, but I also have a bunch more. So I'm just waiting for the proper time to discuss those.
Okay.
That's all I had, Shannon.
Okay. Thank you very much. Representative Thomas, do you would you like to just read through what you have, or how would you like to present what you
Sure, yeah. So I have the first 5, which I agree with, and I'll just read these out. And I'm not saying that they have to go on the list. These are just from my notes, things that I've pinged that I thought would be important. Enforcement of water protection areas, protection area for specifically for wells that go through, and I had put through the St. Gobain building, but protection area for wells we talked about, expanding it maybe, or making it more concrete. I have including car wash discharge. That's something that needs to be looked at. We had talked about a map of unlined landfills. We talked about a sharing of resources, some kind of a shareholders group, and that could be a recommendation. We also talked about a multi-state water coalition on bordering states, because we know that water doesn't obey borders. Just generally, I have that we have flood concerns due to climate shift, and likewise, we have drought concerns due to climate shift. We have tailor state policies to preserve forested land, but we should also have emerging wetlands and wetland protection. And then just generally, biosolids is going to be an emerging issue with water contamination. So I just added a whole bunch.
All right. So, and thank you for that. I'm going to go back. I have a couple of questions for you. And one of the things I do want to just point out is that all of the issues that, this committee heard about, so many really serious and important issues, but I'm trying to keep the focus and the focus of our report in allegiance with our charge, and that is to look at the protection of unprotected water sources. So while many things that we've discussed in this committee are important, they may not be specific to the charge of this committee. So I just want to make that comment. Tell me what you meant a little bit more about shareholders group, Representative Thomas.
Yeah, I think, and either we talked about this or I distilled it from the conversation, but I thought that we were going to set up some kind of a committee or commission or advisory council is probably a better word, with some of the shareholders. So like water protection people, we could have the Sierra Club, we could have the municipal water districts represented, sort of major shareholders, DES, UNH Cooperative. I mean, the major shareholders, so that we could sort of combine efforts and get input on protecting our water.
And I have one question about that, and I just want to make sure we're not duplicating another group that already exists. And that would be my question.
Yeah.
And I do.
All right, I can't see.
And I also had another one. We had talked about water infrastructure concerns because they're so archaic.
I'm sorry, say that again. I missed what you said.
Sure. I have a note here that we talked about water infrastructure concerns, about how archaic they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that sort of ties into the septic systems and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that we could say taking proactive steps to address failing septic systems and water infrastructure.
Yeah,
that's easy enough to include. And of course, these are things that we recommend for the committee. It's sort of saying if the committee extends beyond the life of our committee, we don't want all the work that we did to be lost. So the point is not so much anyone who's ever served on a legislative committee knows that sometimes we do a lot of work in those committees, good work is done, and the information gleaned does not follow, sometimes it's then repeated. And I want to make sure that all of the good work that was done and the really good testimony that we've heard gets into the hands of the committee going forward so they can continue work. And Representative Renzullo? Yes,
Madam Chair. Well, what I'm concerned with what I heard, the charge of this committee was to talk about or to discuss unprotected water sources. The only unprotected water source that I know of that we have in this state is rainwater. Every other water source in the state has some kind of protection, maybe inadequate, but every other water source has some protection. So am I cutting this too fine a definition? Because I mean, it is, well, I'm just going by the charge of the committee.
In answer to your question, I'd say you are using too narrow a lens. I would suggest that the charge is study the ways in which drinking water resources are contaminated from any source. And that is sort of the first overriding issue. And that is the one that we heard the most information about. We did work with the Department of Environmental Services as well. One of the things we never got to we really didn't talk about was identifying potential funding mechanisms and dedicated funding for protection of high priority drinking water sources. We never got there. So I think if we were to move forward by suggesting this committee continue. We would say, here's our report, here are the areas we explored, here are, obviously we have our findings. We would then have our recommendations, which are not yet set in the report. But I think the part of the next committee to pick up would want to review what we have done and move probably right into the third part of the charge. Maybe not quite, but figuring out what is it going to cost to do this. And I don't think it's just rainwater that we want to be protecting. So I think that, they'd want to look at what it is we're going to be protecting and how we might pay for that. That's not something we've done. It's not something I feel comfortable making recommendations about. Representative Thomas.
Yes, to Andy's point, and it's a fair point. I could argue that private wells are unprotected, and that's why we're in such a pickle right now with the private well owners, because they're not obeying the boundaries and that kind of thing. And I think the lakes, I think that's one of the problems. We heard it in our committee about the septic systems, so if there's a problem, that means it's unprotected correctly.
No, it means it's inadequately protected.
That's, yeah.
So,
I
but
agree
there
with
is, there are
Fair
laws, there are laws around everything but rainwater. There are in some states laws around rainwater. I don't propose them, hell no. But out west where they have less rain, there's actually are laws concerning cisterns and things of that nature.
Good. Are there further comments? Anything else anyone wants to add? Yes, Representative Thomas.
Yes, I'm just going through my notes. We did discuss invasive species, and I don't know if that belongs here or not. But that's certainly a concern more with the lakes. So I don't know if we wanted to add that or not.
And this is my thoughts only and off the cuff, an on the fly opinion, is that that's already being done quite extensively. I don't think we want to ignore it, but I don't think it needs to be part of our recommendations. And I don't, if anyone else agrees or disagrees, that's fine.
I think if we just list it as a consideration for, I hear what you're saying. I mean, if we list it, then we have to address it. It's one of those things. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm okay with that.
Yes, Representative.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So in summary, I guess we've all had an input to the recommendations. If Griffith or somebody could paraphrase or go over each of those recommendations, make sure I have them all written down here before we move on to something else. Can I hear those again?
You mean Wendy's recommendations?
Adding to the recommendations that on the report.
Okay.
The ones that I went through?
Well, no, the ones that we're gonna include.
Okay,
Gonna,
all right.
We're gonna include some other ones, but I wanted to go over some of them. I had a question, a couple, Wendy, that you were talking about, but I just wanted to make sure that they're gonna be put in the body of the recommendation.
Or not. I mean, these are just
Or not.
suggestions. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah,
are we gonna agree or disagree or not agree on some of these recommendations?
Well, so if I will just say a couple that I think can easily put in, and then I'm going to let Representative Thomas speak to hers one at a time. The first one, I think, to include water infrastructure in our second bullet, taking proactive steps to address the failing septic systems and water infrastructure. We can enhance this language if need be, but I think that's a reasonable place to put that. We are going to put something in about a recommendation, something to follow up on the underground storage facilities, as you mentioned, Representative Panacity, and we're going to put in something along, following up with the, just at least someone should find out whether the salt users certification program, since that has been in place, if it's showing improvements. Those three I have down as important. I think we do want to mention something about private wells, and then I'm going to let I will let you go from there, Representative Thomas, and we can take your next recommendations one at a time.
Sure. And actually, I found yet another one. Just keep an eye on new contaminants that emerge. That was, and specifically, I have HF, which is hydrofluorine. Enforcement of water protection areas, protection area for wells. Just establish those and maintain them, I guess. I have including car wash discharge. I know that that's an emerging problem because of the PFAS that's used in car washes. So if we're protecting the water, that should be something that should be looked at, I think. We talked about a map of unlined landfills because of the leachate that goes into the water. If we had a map, we could perhaps do some testing and find out if there's a problem there. We talked about a sharing of resources, and that's within the state of New Hampshire with major shareholders to discuss what we can do going forward. And we also talked about a multi-state water coalition of bordering states because water protection is going to become a big thing in the future. We talked about flood concerns due to climate shift. That may or may not be something that stays on the list because there's not much we can do about it, but we should be aware of it. And likewise, we should be aware of drought concerns. We talked about that. Emerging wetlands. I think you were going to combine that with the forest bullet, protecting forest land and emerging wetlands. Again, biosolids, primarily because of PFAS, but there's going to be other contaminants that we're going to identify. But the use of contaminated biosolids is definitely affecting water. We talked about water infrastructure. I think that that was just included. Invasive species, and I just said that. So we're not doing invasive species. So those are the ones that I have. Does anybody need clarification on any of those?
So my suggestion is that anybody can make comments right now if people have comments to make right now. If not, we will write, I'd ask you perhaps to work with Griffin to write those up as tight recommendations. We'll put them in a draft, which will go up on our on the website, and all of us will have access to, and we can think about them, work with them, and come back and in the public forum make our decision whether to. But it'll give us time to think about them or tweak them if we think they need to be written differently. And by having another meeting, we will be allowing for Representative Bushway to weigh in as well. So, does that make sense to everyone? Does anyone have a comment to make now?
One more thing, we also talked about perhaps an educational program to teach people about sewage systems and things like that.
Representative Renzullo.
Here I go again. The recommendations, are these recommendations for the next committee to study, or are these recommendations for the state to pursue?
So in my opinion, these recommendations would be for the next committee to work on. To say, these are the issues that bubbled to the top after our several meetings. These are issues that came forth to us. We're saying, take a look at these, at least consider these as you go forward with this committee.
Okay, I would agree with that, because recommendations to this should be law have to be a lot finer than what we have here.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so yeah, I definitely agree with that. So I can agree to put them in the recommendations if it said that for the recommendations are for the follow-on committee, because I support the follow-on committee. And I know there's several of us who are planning to be reelected, so somebody will survive to put it in. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think we will make that clear. I'll make sure the language, I'll work with Griffin to make sure the language says, this is just what I just said, that we've come this far. Let's not forget the work we've done. These are the things that were highlighted for us. Let's continue to pursue.
Okay.
And Representative Panisetti, do you have something else?
No, I was just, one of the comments that Representative Thomas made about car washes. I want to say that there is extensive information available from DES about car washes and how they recycle their water. So do we need DES to talk more about that? Do we want more research into that, or do we want to put that as a recommendation that we would like to hear more information about car wash drainage, discharge, and recyclables, and those kind of things? Because I know that there are things out there, because I looked at buying one, and there was an awful lot of information out there about reusing water.
Good. Yeah.
So
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. And then, with all due respect, Wendy, I think we need not make this as political. And I think it's political, but I think we have to stay away from climate change issues. Kind of as a committee. Sure, that could be, but it's inconclusive. We all know that, and it's a subject that I don't think our committee should address.
I respectfully disagree. However, I'd be happy with modifying the recommendation to emerging flood and drought concerns.
Okay, I mean, that's perfectly okay.
Okay.
All right. So I do not see that anyone from the public is wishing to comment. So what I would suggest is we take it from here, we move forward, we get that reworked draft up on the website, and then then we will all have access to it. Each of us works to come up with and hopefully we can all agree, and we'll meet sometime soon. As everyone says, the days drag and the months are flying by. I think that we should, I don't know, are you able, Alan, to set a date for us now?
Yeah, if you have an idea as to when you'd want to meet, I can tell you what's available around that time.
Why don't we do that? We're not too many people, and I think it'd be easy enough. It may be best to do it that way. So if it doesn't take us too long to do it, let's look at the week of October, somewhere October 6th, 7th, 8th, anywhere in there.
All right, so the 6th is booked pretty much all day up until 3 o'clock. There's a space at 3 to 5 that's open. The 7th is open after 12:30. And on the 8th, it is open from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then 12 p.m. onward.
Would people be open to the 7th at 1 o'clock?
Sure. I can
No,
do
that's not good for me.
Okay. How about the 8th at 8 o'clock?
AM,
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll make that good.
Everyone good with the 8th at 8 a.m.?
Sure.
Yeah, but, yeah, but
Oh, wait, you know what,
if I
guys?
fall asleep at the,
We can't do that because we would need the calendar to come out, and the calendar won't come out until the 8th.
Oh,
So
right.
yeah, after
Right.
the 8th.
I actually just wanted to ask you about that. Whether or not there would be a calendar on October 1st, because according to the calendar, the summer schedule they posted, I think ended last week. Do you know differently?
I don't actually. No, I did not hear
They
that.
were going back to weekly. Let me just pull that up really quick.
Okay.
I think I have it right here.
And I have a question.
Yes, Representative Thomas, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So, in order for this committee to go forward, is it going to require legislation? And who's going to do that if it does?
Well, one of,
A survivor.
yes.
survive.
So any of us can do it. If
Okay.
any of us who is reelected, and certainly we have other folks who we can call on.
Okay. All right.
So tentatively, until we'll wait for, so we could possibly meet 10/8 at 8 a.m. If that's not possible, what does the following week look like?
Let's see.
Let's-
Monday the 12th. Okay, so
Monday, the 12th is Columbus Day, so I don't know if that would complicate.
so Tuesday the 13th.
Indigenous Peoples' Day.
Yes. Tuesday the 13th after 10 a.m. It's open. Wednesday the 14th, it's open all day. And Thursday the 15th, it is open from 8 a.m. to 10 and then 12 p.m. on.
Okay. Sonia, do you know yet?
So the Senate calendar no longer lists a summer schedule. So I am assuming that that means we're back on a weekly basis, but I have just texted the clerk and asked, and I'm hoping that she'll respond to me.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Let's choose. Could people do 10/14 at 8 a.m. as well? And what I will do is prefer 10/8 at 10/8 at 8 a.m. But if we can't do that, we'll do 10/14 at 8 a.m.
That works with the schedule on our side.
Okay.
All right.
I'm fine with that.
All right, so everybody will get a notice as soon as we get this squared away. And that will be our plan, is to meet either on October 8th or October 14th. And I appreciate your time and your contribution. And if there is anything else anyone would like to say?
This is contingent on Pat Bushway, right?
Yes, we will definitely reach out to her as well.
There will be a calendar published this
Okay.
week.
All right. And Griffin, do you want me to send you all of the things that I had mentioned, the recommendations?
Yes, there we go. Yeah, I will email you, Representative, and we will work through the different recommendations you have.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, and I have to thank everyone from the staff for your work in helping us set this up and guiding us through the process. Thank you for all your input. Thank you, Griffin, for all your work in pulling this together. And Sonia and Alan, thank you as well.
So we're good for the 8th because the calendar, Sonia said they're going to do it this week. And then just a reminder, you do have to take a roll call to adjourn.
And so I am also going to reach out to Representative Bushway. I'm going to do that right after we, I'll ask Griffin as well, but I will reach out to her and see if that day works for her. So, okay, if that is all, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, moved by Representative Panisetti and seconded by Representative Thomas. And I will call the roll. Representative Renzullo,
Yes.
Representative Panisetti,
Absolutely.
Representative Thomas,
Yes, indeed.
and the chair votes yes to adjourn. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
All right,
We'll
bye, guys.
adjourn. Everyone have a great afternoon. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.